There is a moment that every man knows, a moment that arrives without warning, slicing through the air like a blade drawn in silence. It is the moment when someone looks you in the eye and delivers words designed to wound, to diminish, to disrespect. You feel it immediately. That sudden contraction in your chest, the heat rising from your core up through your throat, the sharp electric surge that courses through your veins. Your jaw tightens, your fists clench. Something ancient and primal awakens inside you, something that demands immediate action. It screams for retaliation, that insists you must defend what has been attacked. The ego, wounded and bleeding, reaches out its hand and begs you to strike back, to prove your worth, to show them who you are. And in that moment, you stand at a crossroads that has existed since the dawn of human consciousness, the choice between the path of reaction and the path of mastery. Disrespect is not merely an insult hurled across a conversation. It is a test, delivered by life itself, to see whether you are the master of your inner world or merely a slave to it. When someone disrespects you, they are attempting to transfer their internal chaos into your emotional landscape. They are handing you a burning coal and waiting to see if you will clutch it tightly, allowing it to sear your flesh, or if you will let it fall harmlessly to the ground. The average man, untrained in the art of self-command, will grab that coal without hesitation. He will react instantly, words flying from his mouth like weapons, his voice rising, his presence becoming smaller, even as he attempts to appear larger. He believes he is defending his honor, but in truth, he is surrendering his power to someone who does not deserve even a fraction of his attention. The ancient Stoics understood this with a clarity that cuts through 2,000 years of human history. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who ruled Rome at its zenith, spent his nights writing in candlelight, reminding himself of truths that would preserve his sanity in a world of constant political intrigue, betrayal, and disrespect. He wrote that when someone wrongs you, you should consider what notion of good and evil they possessed that made them do it. He understood that people act from their own understanding of the world, and most often, their disrespect toward you has almost nothing to do with who you are and everything to do with who they are. Their insults are confessions of their own inadequacy, their own pain, their own unhealed wounds. When you understand this, the disrespect loses its power. It becomes transparent, a projection flickering on a screen. You see through it, to the frightened person behind the hostile words. Seneca, that master of the examined life, took this understanding even deeper. He observed that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, and nowhere is this more evident than in how we respond to disrespect. The actual words spoken to you last only seconds. They are vibrations in air, patterns of sound that dissipate almost as soon as they arrive. But if you react emotionally, if you allow those words to hook into your sense of self, you will replay them in your mind for hours, for days, perhaps for years. You will lie awake at night, rehearsing better comebacks, imagining scenarios where you emerge victorious, feeding the wound until it becomes infected with resentment. The disrespect, which lasted mere moments, becomes a chronic condition because you chose to carry it with you. Seneca would ask you a simple question. Why would you grant someone the power to disturb your peace long after they have left your presence? Why would you voluntarily imprison yourself in anger over words that cannot touch your true nature? Epictetus, who knew something of degradation having spent his early years as a slave, taught that there are things within your control and things beyond it, and that wisdom lies in knowing the difference. Someone's words about you, their opinion, their disrespect, these things lie entirely outside your control. You cannot reach into their mind and rearrange their thoughts. You cannot force them to see your value. You cannot make them respect you through argument or confrontation. But your response, your interpretation, your emotional state, these belong entirely to you. No one can make you angry without your permission. No one can disturb your peace unless you open the door and invite the disturbance in. This is not merely philosophy. This is the recognition of a profound truth about human consciousness that, between stimulus and response, there exists a space, and in that space lies your freedom. When someone disrespects you, they are attempting to provoke a reaction. This is the hidden psychology of the insult. The person who seeks to diminish you is often trapped in their own cage of inadequacy, And they have discovered that by pulling others down, they can momentarily feel elevated. They need your reaction. They feed on it. When you respond with anger, with defensiveness, desperate attempts to justify yourself, you confirm their power over you. You show them that they have successfully penetrated your defenses and disrupted your internal order. You give them exactly what they sought. But when you remain calm, when you meet their words with measured silence or quiet composure, you deny them their prize. You refuse to play the game. And in that refusal, you demonstrate a power so complete, so self-contained, that it renders their disrespect impotent. There is a profound difference between the weakness of passivity and the strength of chosen restraint. The weak man remains silent because he is afraid, because he has no response, because he has been defeated. The strong man remains silent because he has chosen silence as the most powerful response available to him. He has looked at the situation with clear eyes and recognized that some battles diminish you by your mere participation in them. He understands that not every insult deserves the dignity of a response. That sometimes the most devastating thing you can do to disrespect is to treat it as beneath your notice. This is not about suppressing your emotions. This is not about pretending the words do not sting. This is about processing the sting internally, examining it, understanding it, and then choosing your response from a place of clarity rather than reactivity. The path to this kind of mastery begins with a simple practice: the pause. When disrespect comes your way, the first and most critical step is to create space between the stimulus and your response. Take a breath. A single, full breath where you feel your lungs expand and contract. In that breath, remind yourself that you are not your emotions. You are the observer of your emotions. You can feel the anger rising, notice it, acknowledge it, and then decide whether giving it voice serves your interests. Most often, it does not. Most often, the anger wants to speak because the ego is wounded, and the ego is a terrible advisor. It will lead you into conflicts that diminish your dignity, into arguments you cannot win, to patterns of behavior that leave you emptied and ashamed. The pause gives you the opportunity to consult a higher counselor reason, your values, your vision of the man you are becoming. As you develop this practice, something remarkable begins to happen within you. You start to notice that your emotional responses become less automatic, less overwhelming. The disrespect still comes, but it no longer hijacks your entire system. You begin to observe it from a slight distance, the way you might observe a storm through a window, aware of its intensity but not consumed by it. This distance is freedom. This is what the Stoics meant when they spoke of tranquility, of the inner citadel that no external force can breach. You realize that people can say whatever they wish about you, but they cannot touch who you actually are unless you give them permission. Your character, your integrity, your worth, these things exist independent of anyone's opinion. They are built through your actions, your choices, your consistent alignment with your principles. No insult can diminish them. No disrespect can erode them. They are fortress walls that you have constructed through disciplined living, and they stand firm regardless of what storms blow against them. The man who masters this understanding develops a presence that others can sense but rarely understand. There is a gravity to him, a centeredness that does not waver when challenged. When disrespect comes his way, he might meet it with silence, allowing the words to fall into empty space where they dissipate into nothingness. Or he might respond with measured words that are calm, clear, and entirely free of defensiveness. He does not need to prove himself because he knows himself. He does not need to defeat the other person because he is not in competition with them. He exists in a different category entirely, operating from a framework where his peace is more valuable than any victory in a pointless exchange. This composure is not weakness. It is power in its most refined form. It is the power of self-mastery, of emotional sovereignty, of choosing your battles with wisdom rather than fighting every battle with fury. There is something profoundly masculine about this kind of strength, though it has nothing to do with gender and everything to do with maturity. The boy reacts. The man responds. The boy needs external validation. The man has internal validation. The boy seeks to prove his worth through confrontation. The man demonstrates his worth through composure. This is not about becoming passive or allowing yourself to be walked over. There are moments when confrontation is necessary, when standing up for yourself or others is the only appropriate response. But even in those moments, the man who has mastered himself confronts from a place of calm power rather than reactive emotion. He speaks truth without being consumed by anger. He sets boundaries without needing to destroy the other person. He protects his dignity without desperate displays of ego. He has learned the ancient art of being fierce without being chaotic, of being strong without being brittle, of being unmoved without being unfeeling. Consider what happens in the aftermath of disrespect when you have chosen calm over chaos. The person who disrespected you often realizes, sometimes immediately and sometimes much later, that their words had no effect. They see that you are unchanged, that your confidence remains intact, that your peace was never disturbed. This realization often produces more respect than any clever comeback ever could, because deep down, everyone recognizes and admires the person who cannot be shaken, who possesses an inner stability that external circumstances cannot disrupt. They may not admit this admiration, may not even be consciously aware of it, but it registers nonetheless. And you, in choosing calm, have strengthened something within yourself. You have reinforced the neural pathways of self-control. You have proven to yourself that you are not at the mercy of other people's opinions or actions. You have expanded your capacity for peace. And that capacity is perhaps the most valuable asset you can develop in a chaotic world. The journey toward this kind of mastery is not walked in a day. It is a daily practice, a constant returning to principles when old patterns try to reassert themselves. There will be moments when you fail, when the disrespect cuts too deep, or arrives when you are too tired, too stressed, too depleted to maintain your composure. In those moments, you will react rather than respond, and you will feel the familiar taste of regret. But even these moments are teachers if you allow them to be. They show you where your practice must deepen, where your understanding must expand, where your commitment must strengthen. The path of mastery is not about perfection. It is about progression, about becoming slightly more capable of calm with each challenge you face, about building the kind of character that grows stronger through adversity rather than being diminished by it in the end. The measure of a man is not found in how loudly he responds to disrespect, not in how cleverly he constructs his comebacks, not in how thoroughly he defeats his opponents in verbal battle. The measure of a man is found in his capacity to remain himself when everything around him is attempting to pull him off center. It is found in his ability to encounter chaos and remain calm, to face insult and remain composed, to experience disrespect and remain dignified. This is the victory that matters. This is the strength that endures. Because when you master your response to disrespect, you master something far more valuable than any single interaction. You master yourself. And in that mastery lies a power that nothing in this world can take from you, a peace that no insult can disturb, a strength that grows deeper and more unshakable with every challenge you face. You become the unmoved mover, the calm eye in the center of the storm. The man who rises above disrespect not by shouting louder, but by standing firmer in the unshakable truth of who he is.